Hello, hello. Welcome again to the Network Intelligence LinkedIn Live series that is organized together with colleagues from the University of Manchester as part of the Entre Unity Consortium for the Higher Education Initiative with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. I am very passionate about EIT and developing the communities. My name is Golebiowska-Tataj, and I was one of the founding team members who set up the EIT back in 2008. And I continue to monitor how this community is changing the innovation and entrepreneurship in Europe. And 4 years ago in Barcelona, had a pleasure to work with EIT alumni in a hackathon. They came up with phenomenal ideas to answer the challenge how to transform part of the post-industrial zone of Barcelona into an innovation district. Barcelona is famous for this 22 innovation district, but just 10 minutes away, there are hundreds of hectares of abandoned land. And these best and smartest talent we have in Europe were thinking, what can you do meaningful with this land? For example, they came up with an idea, which 4 years ago was kind of innovative, how to prototype a carbon neutral village or district, part of the city. And I thought that the ideas were so spectacular that we organized a number of innovation seminars, exploratory tours, networking events to connect them with the local decision makers in a way to seed with their ideas the local ecosystem. And quite to my disappointment, nothing happened. And being very passionate about the EIT community, and this community is foremost the alumni, I started to think and apply my research on the networks. Why is that so that some people are capable of utilizing networks for innovation entrepreneurship and others, although they have access to the networks, there is some kind of incapability, some barrier. So today we will talk about how we innovate innovation entrepreneurship at universities. And my guests are Sheppard, the director of Masood Entrepreneurship Center at the Alliance Business School, the University of Manchester, Alliance Manchester Business School at the University of Manchester. And she has a long-standing working relationship with University College London, where my other guest comes from, Kimberly Cornfield, who actually is heading the European funding research and innovation department at the UCL, and is one of the very early adopters of network intelligence methodology. So I'm thrilled to have you here with me. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I know that what we share is the passion for what we do. So Lynn, how about if you shared more what you do in your role, and why are you so passionate, as I have seen last week being with you in Manchester, for driving this innovation entrepreneurship agenda forward?
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daria, and thank you for inviting me to join this LinkedIn Live session. Yeah, I'm absolutely passionate about entrepreneurship. And what I really want to do is to encourage all young people around the world, if possible. I'll start here at University of Manchester, though, to have the confidence to take ideas to the next stage. And that doesn't matter whether they are working for an organization or whether they have ideas of their own. Just to constantly think about how to take things forward and make impact. And it's so important in the world at the moment. There are so many challenges around us that we need people to pull together to help us get through these very challenging times that we have in terms of our world, the environment, the cultural situation around the world, and also the political situation that we have. So we need people now to have that positive attitude, to want to work together. And that's why I think networking is so absolutely vital, to work with others from diverse communities to begin to make things happen. And this is something that I think I have become more passionate about as my career has developed, because I started out in university doing what a lot of people do. I went all the way and did a PhD in chemistry, and then really thought at the end of it, I wasn't really sure what you do with that, because when I was at university doing chemistry, there was really no help and support about what you do next in terms of the way you move forward. The only options then were, well, you'll have a postdoc, and and then you'll just look at an academic career. And if you suddenly thought, well, actually, I don't want that, there wasn't any other support around. And so the work we do with UCL is very much aligned with helping our research students to develop an entrepreneurial mindset. It's absolutely critical. We have so many doctoral students around the UK, Europe, the world. Not all of them are going to work in academic institutions. And actually, to be honest, it's not right for a lot of them to do that. They wouldn't feel happy doing that, and they wouldn't feel fulfilled. So what we need to do is prepare them to actually contribute to society more generally, and take what they have learned, their ability to be able to think about technology at the deepest level, or to be able to communicate with others and share knowledge and understanding to help take ideas forward. So that's the project that we're doing with UCL. It's a 2-year project looking at developing these mindsets, and we've done some research. We've looked at both our models, and hopefully we'll be evaluating that over the next few months and then imparting that information. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of background, Daria.
Absolutely, Lynn. And let me come back in a moment to what you said about the importance of confidence to be able to tap on this capacity of networking and networks that we all have, and your work with UCL. But let me ask Kim to introduce herself, what she does, and tell what drives her work forward. What is the passion? What is her secret of success? Because we know that the passion brings success sooner or later.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been great to hear about Lynn's work and more about our collaboration. I know those at UCL collaborating with Lynn and the center in Manchester, and I share that passion, and I'm focused on research and innovation, more on the academic side as opposed to the student side. And what I've, through my work in research management and project management, I've become really passionate about understanding how can we innovate in collaboration to tackle these global challenges. And I think they're so complex and they're so wide. It needs to be interdisciplinary, cross-sector, and international, and we need to come together. And that's why we need such diverse networks really to tackle these global challenges. And I look at our funding, we've got a large portfolio of funding from the European Union, and looking at what has been funded, and I'm really passionate about how can we utilize our networks to advance that research, that innovation. So, there's a traditional space in academia, which is really important, and there's those existing networks, but is grant funding from government the next, is that the next step, or is it VC funding, private investment, and different types of networks? So I've been really passionate over the last few years of expanding upon, my own network within research management and supporting our academic community in, in being a conduit into other different types of networks that could support that. And so we could really create impact from that funded research, which I know everybody involved in these projects really wants to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Kim, that's absolutely right. And the most important thing, is not to underestimate the importance for academics. So if you have an academic role, being able to really be able to showcase the impact of your work is going to help you get the next grants. You're not going to do that if you're not going to be able to show how global PLC can actually benefit and take that forward. So really it is a change in mindset for academics who are already in academia. For doctoral students who want to move into that space, they have to understand how they need to appreciate the importance of markets, stakeholders, etc., to be able to do that. And of course, for our students that are merely guests in our institutions, it's about giving them the skills to be able to make a difference as they go forward. But all these skills, they're all so very similar, and yet it's the way we import them into individuals that gives them the unique challenges that we have. It's so difficult to be able to do that. It's easy to say you need to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, but actually doing it and physically doing it, which is the same with networks. Daria.
Yes, so actually measuring the level of self-confidence is one of the KPIs of our Network Intelligence Academy. And I'm always puzzled, how is it that so that sometimes I find very gifted people with this deep sense of professional insecurity. I'm not talking about personal insecurity, I'm talking about professional identity. Sometimes very senior people who have also lack of self-confidence although it does not show on the outside. And Lynn, since you touched on this issue of self-confidence, I interacted and taught and worked with your students at Masood Entrepreneurship Center in Manchester. This is probably one of the most global entrepreneurship center I have seen around the world, and I have visited quite a few. So you have such a great cultural mix, and confidence expresses itself differently in different cultures, across genders, across generations. How do you see with your work on mindset, what works to help build this confidence, that you have the mindset of going out there, asking for things in the right way, thanking for things in the right way, and what does your work with the recent research project that you've been doing with UCL and other work, or just observations? Can you share why people don't have sufficient confidence, self-confidence, and what makes them, in your view, grow this core, growth driver of a career?
Daria, it's really, I think it is really quite simple. It requires people to give them confidence. I'm not trying to liken our students or our researchers or our academics to children. But if you think about how you want to get how you want to get children to change behaviors or to develop their confidence, you do it by praising them, by showing them what it's like, by allowing them to shadow you and share with them. And then, of course, by praising them. And I think sometimes it's finding and again, you talk very much about the diverse nature of groups. Some young people are compelled to do better when they are criticized, when others find that really quite difficult to take on board, and they find that actually pushes them back. Actually, they want praise, they want to be supported moving forward. And so I think it's really important that, and that's what we have in our entrepreneurship center. We have a team of people who are passionate about this, and we actually make sure we build relationships so we understand what our students and our graduates are doing. I think it's about understanding your classroom. I mean, it's the first thing that you learn, isn't it, about teaching? Be a guide by the side rather than being the sage on the stage. And that's what we try to do. And I think it's really important that we show young people by example, but also support them and praise them and encourage them. And that, I have to say, takes time and effort. And that sometimes is what people are not prepared to give. I think we're very special in Manchester, and we do that. But those are my thoughts on it. So I'm not likening everyone to small children, but you have to think about what it's like. We have experience of teaching, the very young, and we can learn an awful lot from them in how we should actually change the way we approach when we're teaching or training others.
Thank you, Lynn. Kimberly, you were a participant of the Network Intelligence Academy that we organized with colleagues from Masood Entrepreneurship Center at the Entre Unity Consortium. So there were 8 universities from 6 different countries across Europe, and you were actually one of the students, learners, and had the ability to observe in our diverse groups. Some were professors, so at the very top of the academic career. Some were academic, some were administrators working at universities with the role of helping the students and the entrepreneurial talent succeed. and other were entrepreneurs. So we really represented this ecosystem mix that is so crucial for the EIT, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and the vision to push forward innovation, entrepreneurship in the knowledge triangle. What were some, learnings that you observed? Can be personal, but can be also from others. What made some people build this self-confidence? Because I believe that at the end of the program, this was remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think confidence is a really key point in this, and agree with sort of what you and Lynn have shared. And even in my own journey, since we started the coaching program, it was summer 2020, and then and participating throughout with different programs. So it's a been journey, I think, of that confidence building in the networking, and I think sort of exploring, so trying something, putting it out there, and being vulnerable. And I think what Lynn was sharing, in the network, you get that positive feedback, and that encourages. And you've been very encouraging, Daria, of giving a step-by-step guideline of this is what you should do, this will work. And when you're brave and you try it, and then you get that positive feedback. And what was really great in that program that we did, with the EIT and with Masood, was that we had such a mix of people, and we, in sort of different areas and different experience levels, that we could support each other through that. And getting feedback of how you were perceived online, and you organized some live events like today, and it encouraged us, we had to engage with each other on those events and commenting, and it pushed us out of our comfort zone, but in a safe place with people that had the same framework, and that was really great. And I think, going back to maybe my first live broadcast or anything through back, if I go back to 2020 and the pandemic, and how I feel today is very different. It's much more confident, much more relaxed. And, I think that's really been a process of learning and having a support system, and then a framework of which to apply things, so you can understand how to do it professionally, how to shape it in the way to get the most impact. So that's, maybe my takeaways from that. And I came with a couple of other academic colleagues and friends from the university on the program, which was great as well, because we've taken that lesson and framework that we've learned, and we're supporting each other at the university and sort of in our networking. And that's been really a cool outcome from the program for me personally.
Fantastic. I remember this experience. So Lynn, just to give you a background, we had maybe 2,000 people, 3,000 people on the program. And part of our learn by doing, action-based learning exercise to build digital competences and strengthen your digital identity was to be able to have a voice in the global space, and LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for this. So at a time, I was inviting a colleague that we call them super influencers, and we had a colleague from Stanford University, a very prominent consulting firm owner from Barcelona, a serial entrepreneur, a millionaire entrepreneur from Portugal, and students or learners on our program were asked to post live. And you cannot imagine, so just commenting on what we were doing. And this was just one of the learning exercises of networking for the digital age, how we are building the skills. And later, to what Kim refers to, is that some people just felt so deeply uncomfortable, so to show that they show their vulnerability, maybe lack of perfection, by commenting online. And some people are just not thoughtful enough and spam the comments with whatever. So there were different behaviors, and we were, through this exercise, we were able to kind of adjust to have an informed, good presence. And we were repeating this a few times. And I'm super happy, Kim, to hear now that you feel confident and comfortable broadcasting live to the global audience. So we actually have one comment in our feed, and if you allow me, I will share it on the screen so you can also read it. Bogusław, thank you very much for posting this comment. Let me read it. Daria, thank you for taking up on this critical topic of our future development and growth. My take is that entrepreneurship stands for freedom of individuals and hopefully creates better societies. Still, we must be aware of its adverse or negative effects that some individual want to execute over the greater benefits for societies or nations. Today, technologies seem to be always a double-edged tool. A fantastic question, Bogusław, because really what the way we're shaping leadership, management capacity, individual ambition and aspiration is absolutely key, especially in the science and technology domain. So, and I think that we can relate, Bogusław, this question to what has happened over the last 2 years, where actually the academic community globally has demonstrated absolutely superior, amazing networking capabilities to come up with a number of vaccines at a record short time. At the same time, we know that this technology deployed in a way to protect and safeguard society, it's also an intelligence on citizens. And in many countries, this goes to the level of full surveillance. So, just an open question, Lynn and Kim, to you from Bogusław and backed up to me. Over the last 2 years, how do you see at your institutions this topic of entrepreneurship and leadership for the better future technologies to be addressed?
I mean, I'll take that first, Daria. I mean, economically, entrepreneurship stimulates markets and creates jobs. And what we need to do in all of our various ecosystems is ensure that we are supporting people to do it in a fair and ethical way, and to make sure that the technologies are used in an appropriate way and that markets are addressed appropriately. But I think, entrepreneurship is an absolutely critical aspect. Innovation doesn't happen without entrepreneurship, and we can't be afraid of it. We have to give it the space, but have the natural controls, and I think societal controls that allow us to manage it and police it in a way, because the markets will choose. Markets will choose what to buy or not to buy, what to take part in, depending on what they feel is appropriate. So I'm not afraid of it at all. I think we need to embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Lynn. Kim, do you want to share your views?
Yeah, so I have two. The first is really sort of on entrepreneurship and how broad it is of a mindset that we can take. So I agree with Lynn's point, and it's something I think what the pandemic and other challenges that we've been facing. So I've had to look at sort of my team and our services, European research and innovation, and the current geopolitical situation we're working in, and looking at actually how can we use our networks to pool resources and knowledge to tackle joint challenges. And it's part of being creative and innovative about our services and how we're going to solve different challenges, and even just looking at that as a service perspective in higher education, which has been really fun and something I'm quite passionate about. And it's a space where I feel that I can be creative. Of course, we have to look at I think then when you get into ethics of the good and bad that could be taken from anything, and that gets more complex, as technology advances. And actually, it's some of the work that I'm doing, research work at UCL on ethical dilemmas that senior practitioners face in delivering projects addressing the global challenges. So that's a really interesting area. And even my co-I on the project that's leading it, and we've had that discussion, is this is the work that we're doing and these are the results that we're coming up with, and actually how could that be taken, both good and bad? Could it be misused? And so I think when having considerations always about that is important.
Mm-hmm. let me just also share that I believe that in this sense, the power of community is critical, because in a way, advancement of science and technology are always ahead of governments and government regulation when it comes to ethics, when it comes to AI algorithm and stereotypes that we embed in this technology, or blockchain or gene sequences, many others. So I believe that it's important that those scientists who are developing and experimenting have a peer community and the right kind of network to discuss some of this dilemma. And the same for entrepreneurs, that they have the right sort of community environment that where certain things are not regulated, and it really depends on us if we will put something on the market, and then markets can take it or not. But we are, as scientists or technologists, innovators, our engineers are really then in those shoes of a creator who can say, here's the limit. This is where I will not take it, to one level up. And I think it's so important that at universities, especially when we speak about high growth entrepreneurship, so projects created like within the EIT community, for scaling up, for global uptake, global markets, that these entrepreneurs have a strong sense of identity of what is good and what is bad. And when it comes to understanding in such a complex world, what is good, what is bad, having this peer group is absolutely fundamental. An ability to have confidence that you will not be betrayed, that you will be trusted, that it's a community that you can discuss. And quite often these are just online communities, and online connections that you make across different academic institutions are very, very key. So, so a question I have to you, changing the topic, is it's not an obvious strategy for a university, for such an excellent research university as UCL or the University of Manchester, to embrace innovation and entrepreneurship as part of the core strategy. How would you explain to someone why an excellent research university spends time, investment, and dedicates talent to support and foster innovation entrepreneurship? How would you explain this from your institution perspective?
Well, from Manchester's perspective, entrepreneurship and innovation have always been in our DNA. Historically, going back 200 years, the very fathers of the University of Manchester were entrepreneurs. So I don't think it's difficult to understand why. But now, from a strategic perspective, the value of it is being really communicated across the whole institution. Because it really is a culture change. It's about that awareness. And as I mentioned earlier, it's about our academics appreciating that they need to explore the impact of the work they're doing. We have a responsibility. Much of our research is funded by our governments, and it's about making sure that we can put it out into the world, into communities, for them to benefit from that. And I think we owe it to our students to prepare them for the world that they're going to be entering. So they come to read a subject in depth at a Russell Group university to be absolutely immersed in that subject. But really what they need to do is occasionally just lift their heads up and think about where they want to go with their futures, what they need to prepare within themselves to be able to move forward on that work journey that we all have to take. Once we have, not that we ever complete our learning, I think it's lifelong learning, but certainly after university. And so I think it's so important that we offer that. And so University of Manchester is really part of our main offering, that entrepreneurship is available for all students across the institution to be able to elect. Just before, Kim, I'm interested to hear what UCL are doing. But let me just say, there's a really interesting paper that came out very recently, written by someone that I have a lot of respect for, Donald Karatko. And he's questioning, is entrepreneurship for the few or the many? Is this about the unicorns? Is this about scale? Or is it about many? So we know that the world is made up majority of our businesses out there are small and medium-sized enterprises. And so I think, it's about making sure that we don't overemphasize the work that goes on around those kind of unicorns, but actually think a little bit about how the many small businesses are actually making a difference in our regions, our nations, and globally.
Thank you, Lynn. I think you touched upon such an important element that I also observed that in this new trends on the workplace, there's such a growing number of self-employed, free contractors, part-time workers. So all the new job contracts that become the standard, the new standard, actually require you to be much more entrepreneurial and innovative than someone who enters a job market with the expectation of career-long employment. So entrepreneurship has really become the cornerstone of employability, really.
Exactly. It's about creating your own brand. We would need another LinkedIn Live, Daria, to address that issue. But let's do it. It is so important that everyone now, and that's why you need the networks, because everyone is a brand.
Absolutely, everyone is a node in a network, and you need to understand how to become a more valuable node, more relevant node in this network, and how to connect with other nodes, that is, with the right people in the globe. Kim, how would you comment on this issue?
Yeah, it's been a cultural shift. I mean, from, I think, in the university sector more broadly, and there are some like Manchester and the business center there, which it's, I think, really embedded. And we've got parts in university and at UCL as well, where there's a lot of focus on sort of supporting academics spin out that technology with students and helping spread that knowledge about how to do it. And then there's element from a project-based or from myself in professional services of how to incorporate. And I noticed it a few years ago about sort of, and I did a training program on entrepreneurship in higher education maybe 7 years ago, which was, I think it was still sort of kind of a new topic in some respect within how to look at universities in the future. And I just find it really exciting of working, just amongst ourselves as a team, of how can we take the concept of entrepreneurship to create and advance our services and find new ways to do things, and really to tackle the global challenges which the university is looking at. It's about societal good and that environmental, economic, and social impact. And a lot of that will come through advancing our technologies or methodologies, and it's not just the STEM science, but social science and humanities and the arts as well, about how can we actually support that entrepreneurial journey to get that impact, here in the UK and also globally. And so it can be a really broad way of thinking about things that you can apply to different disciplines, to different sectors. And I think it's really exciting to see how that's being embraced in new ways. And we've got a couple of my favorite projects that have been funded by the EU with UCL have involved a spin-out company, and that link with universities and the technology being licensed out, and European funding helping, in these cases, clinical studies and progress that and develop a company and see that impact. And that's been really exciting. And that's where I've also learned a lot about entrepreneurship, is through these collaborations.
Yeah, absolutely. I see. And the entrepreneurship, sometimes we are actually, the problem is the understanding of the word itself. People think of it as entrepreneurship, it's just a startup and it's just somebody that, just wants to make, 25 more yogurt brands, and, it's just about making money. I love this. I actually wrote this down because I think it's a really interesting short quote. Entrepreneurship is a dynamic process of vision, change, and creation. So I really love that, because for me, it just begins to highlight what it's about, because I work just as you do, Kim, in a very large, quite medieval structured in a way. Universities have been here forever, and the structures are very ancient in the way that we have Senate and Board of Governors, etc., etc. But actually, I am entrepreneurial within this university. So I think that's because I have the vision. I want to see change, but I want to see effective change. And you want to do it as part of, just as the questioner was asking, you do it to make sure that you are thinking about the implications of that change and how it will affect others. So I'm just a passionate entrepreneur and passionate about this topic area, and it's critical for universities.
So let's talk how universities innovate, and the last 2 years pushed universities to innovate faster and better. And I would love to learn, what have you observed in your institutions, but maybe in other places globally? Kim, your team has been extremely successful. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's over 300 million euro that you managed to secure for top research funding at UCL. How do you innovate with keeping up the international science well-funded and highly impactful?
So one way is we haven't dropped the word yet, so I don't want to. But the changing relationship with the UK and Europe, the immediate. I had a model with my team, which was helping lead and driving leadership around collaborative research proposals, large scale to the European Union. Then there was a bit of a shift in the geopolitical situation. So actually that immediately affected that business model. And so we had to innovate quickly. What are we going to do? And I used it was immediately reaching out to the network. And so instead of focusing on coordinating and taking a formal leadership position, it's actually connecting with my networks across Europe. And supporting from a research manager to research manager perspective, what kind of opportunities, and offering our services in a different way. So to partner with other universities' research management teams, we don't need to lead, but we have these resources, and actually taking what I called the networked, sort of a collaborative, entrepreneurial and networked approach, which I used in the strategy that I put forward for my current role. We really saw a success increase. So we saw more proposals that were funded. We saw, increase in funding, and then we saw our services be able to grow, and we were able to fund them through that as well. And that was really exciting, of just looking at it in a new way. And I always try to think, whatever we're facing, for the most part, there's always opportunity. So instead of focusing on what's not working, and we really wouldn't have, I think, changed our business model for the better, if we weren't in that situation. And that was sort of finding the opportunity of it and really utilizing, it's as much as sometimes as much as what we know about who we know, and building those relationships and then reaching out amongst that network.
Mm-hmm. Kim, I'm so proud of you, and in a way of my team at Tata Innovation, where we were coaching and putting together, along from the COVID when it started, to help people build this confidence in utilizing their networks. And what you just said is such a phenomenal testimony, that you use the network to innovate, to collaborate, to sell your services, as simple as this, and then to share your knowledge. So it's brilliant what you just said, and it's fantastic to feel also, for me as an author of network intelligence, a researcher who bridged the world of science, social science, through an entrepreneurial project. Thanks to the EIT alumni, actually, the aha effect, that I realized that they did not have the right skill set, although they had the network, although they had a community of the EIT, such a powerful, over 3,000 partners, one of the most dynamic innovation ecosystems in the world, and they didn't know how to tap on this potential. And so it just makes me so proud as a professor and entrepreneur at the same time. So thank you for being such an excellent student and putting these things to practice, because today it's not a question of not having a network. We all have networks, and we're probably more connected than we need. So it's not the question of having access or not to the network. It's a question of really limiting the number of connections to the people who are relevant for our purpose, who are passionate about what we do. And then this capability to move them from the weak ties to the strong ties, so that you are able not only to, through those weak ties, as you know from network science theory, you're able to get many more opportunities than you are from those close collaborators, the strong ties. But you need those strong ties to put projects together. The vaccines against COVID would not be developed if there were not quickly formed strong teams connected with weak teams. So new ideas, new opportunities, and at the same time executive capability. So this is very, very exciting. And Lynn, we are coming to the end of our conversation, and I would love you to share more. There are so many exciting innovations happening at Masood Entrepreneurship Center in Manchester, with the University of Manchester leading the innovation district project. You know, what are some of the innovations that you are working on as an entrepreneurial director of the Entrepreneurship Center?
Goodness me, there is so much. We would have to have, you know, another hour to go through it. But yeah, our target in Manchester, University of Manchester, is to be recognised as the best university in Europe for innovation. And one of the things we work really hard on is making sure that we have excellent connections internally across both our tech transfer group, the Innovation Factory, across our research institutes, along with our Graphene Innovation Centre, and of course with the new project, which is the Innovation District Manchester, which if any of the audience remember, in Manchester, there are a number of universities, but in the city centre, there was always another university alongside University of Manchester called UMIST, and it's that campus that is now being turned into ID Manchester. It's a massive project. It's a 10, 15-year project. But yeah, Manchester is very ambitious in terms of making sure that we can really make entrepreneurship and innovation key part of our work going forward. It's already in our DNA. So I think
and how about
to make it happen.
If you tell us more about this new program on entrepreneurship that you're planning to launch.
We have launched it. We have a PG certificate, an online PG certificate in entrepreneurship that we have launched, which is a fantastic program. I mean, it can be done alongside, you know, people who are working could take the program because it's a certificate over 12 months. So it's a fantastic new program. But we also have a lot of other interesting activities that we're planning to run to connect other groups around the city region as well, to make sure that Manchester can benefit from this new wave of enthusiasm, and of course the levelling up agenda, making sure that we make sure that the north of our country has the same opportunities as it does in the southeast.
I believe that the region of Manchester, the Midlands, it's really a role model for many ecosystems across Europe, especially those that were highly industrialized and really need to reinvent themselves for the 21st century. And I believe that we should all connect those people who work on transforming their ecosystem through innovation, entrepreneurship, locally, regionally, at the European level, and you know, learn from each other how to empower ourselves to take this agenda faster forward.
Yes, it's sometimes we talk about them as tier 2 cities, and it's a way of making sure that we can, you know, gain momentum for those cities to grow and build. And we see it happening. We see it happening in the US, and we've seen, in a way, Silicon Valley moving east towards Texas, with Austin, Texas now taking quite a significant role in some of those high-tech startups. Some of it obviously depends on the fact that one of the very large unicorn businesses actually decided to locate there, helped to empower that. But I think there is an awful lot that we can learn from other tier 2 cities in terms of how to build that momentum and ensure that we have vibrant economies in all our regions, because it will make all of our countries much stronger by doing that.
And I believe that the higher education initiative by the EIT, the European Institute of Innovation Technology, really grasps well what policymakers can do to connect many more universities locally to their ecosystem, and then across them to create this distributed growth model, having a purpose in mind, just a better society and a better future for many, not just for the few privileged, as you said, Lynn. I want to thank you both so very much. It's been fascinating. And Bogusław, I see your other comment on the screen. We're out of time, so I hope to answer it maybe on another occasion. Thank you very much for being with us, and looking forward to meeting in person sometime soon. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you, Daria and Lynn. It was great to chat.
Thank you, Kimberly and Daria. Lovely to join you today. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.